First of all, my name is Bill Adams, and this year somehow I'm chairman of the Stewardship Committee. I'm going to read you a very brief note that I put together for you folks. It'll be in your packet, but first order of business tonight is to thank you, each and every one of you, for volunteering to help us conduct our Every Member Canvass. We could not take on such a project without your help. We just couldn't be able to do it. Is why did we choose to do an Every Member Canvass this year? And for the past 3 years, our pledges have leveled off about $170,000, okay, putting it in there. In order to cover our financial obligations, that includes our minister salary, the staff salaries, the programs, and ongoing operations, we need to raise about $200,000. So after much discussion amongst our committee members, along with finance, we decided that a personal visit to each and every member of the church where we could talk what First Parish means to them and would help get them involved or invested in the campaign and give us our best opportunity to reach our goal. It is my opinion for the next 30 days, this is priority number 1 at First Parish. Personally, I want to thank you again for helping us in the Every Member Canvass. It is much appreciated. And as Val said in her note to all of you, let's roll.
So, this is Bruce.
Hi. This is Alan.
So, we are going to start this with a video that we did in 2009. So that was 6 years ago.
We look just like this.
We did. You're on that side, I'm on this side. But
Your glasses now, though.
he did such a good job of this last year, in 2009, that we have a 15-minute video of that presentation, which we'll start out with, and then we'll talk about slight differences this year from what was in the video. There are a few of them, and we'll talk about what we
as visiting stewards will do for phone calls, etc. We'll do some role playing in a little bit.
Yes, right.
And then we'll just take some general questions and hopefully
make sure that everybody knows what they're doing and have all their questions answered. Okay, so just before we start, I just want to say that the first year I came to First Parish, 2007, there was an Every Member Canvass, and our home was visited by Jackie Oliveri, who couldn't be here tonight, but Jackie's still at it. But the contact that we had with Jackie in that, the conversation that we had, was one of the strong things that got me locked into First Parish at that time. It's these connections that we make when we visit people can be almost the most valuable thing we do. I say almost because we do have to raise the money, but there are 2 purposes to this. One is to make a connection with somebody you don't know, and the other is to get their pledge card back to us so we can make a budget. Okay, so let's let this thing roll here.
your role as you go out as stewards is to make a connection, to have a visit with other members and friends of First Parish. You'll be calling upon both. And I think that we have coding that will arrive to you so you'll know whether or not the name on your list of contacts is either a friend or a member. That information you'll have. You will not be, you won't have any numbers in front of you as far as previous years' commitments, financial commitments. You don't have to have that information in front of you. If there are any needs out in the field as you're visiting members with questions, just remember that you can always say, don't worry, I'll have somebody contact you about that. Or may I have somebody contact you about that. You do not have to have the answers to everything. Within our packets, though, I have provided, we've gotten together and provided a list of commonly asked questions and possible answers with a giant question mark on the answers as well, because they're each of you will have a different way of expressing yourselves, a different way of fielding questions, and a different means of visiting. Some of you will visit in people's homes, others will visit at coffee shops or here at the church. Some of you might decide to go for a walk or a drive, perhaps invite someone to a lighthouse, or if you have something going on at your home that you wanted to invite them to your home for some reason. I encourage you to think outside of the box. In general, we in general, we sort of picture the home of the parishioner as the location for the visit. I want you to feel free to think outside of that box. The stewardship checklist, the visiting steward checklist, also talks about how making a call, having your calendars out, writing your thank you notes after the visit, how to submit notes later on back to us, any notes you may have taken about your visit, and submitting your folders with financial commitment forms, which used to be called a pledge card. Finally, on the visiting steward checklist, just at the very bottom, I've noted dud calls happen. And as Kitsy said, this is not about you. Success is not measured in whether or not you actually make a date with every person on your contact list, whether or not you have completed, whether you've not returned all of your commitment forms. That may or may not happen. We have a stewardship wrap-up team that will occur the last week of April, and they'll be sort of pulling together in an effort to make some extra calls and handle any unusual arrangements. Some of our parishioners and friends do not live in the state of Maine and or are not in the state of Maine during this season. They may be coming back, during April or May
So
or
those
June.
who are in that situation, we have mailed them information about
Okay.
how to contribute. So all of these calls should be possible. Some
Okay.
of them are out on Peaks Island, but I assume taking the ferry is not a hardship.
Or meeting at a coffee shop. Yeah.
Right.
Feel free to use humor and or the heart chakra because they're all positives. And next, within your visiting steward folder, we have a list of visiting steward's topics to address during the visit. These range from please share a testimonial. Tell them about why you love First Parish. Tell them your story. Maybe even a vignette. Some of you have literally had a life-changing experience, either directly or indirectly as being a member here in the church. Some of us have gone through some also trying and difficult times in our lives, some ups and downs, and this church has been here for us. We've been here for each other. When we say this church, we really mean you. You have been here for me in more ways than you'll ever know. And I have my own story, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with some of my folks too. So those are different topics that you'll touch based on, and of course you want to give space for the person you're visiting to share their story. So warn them in advance after you finish sharing your story. You'd love for them to share a little bit about themselves as well. And of course then toward the end you'll want to offer that ritual, offer them that time for that ritual of filling out and signing their financial commitment form. So this sort of walks you through that visit.
One thing too is to remember to say thank you. You've got thank you at the beginning for letting me come. Thank you for sharing your stories about First Parish. And then no matter if the person has a 0 on their pledge card or whatever, thank you so much anyway.
That's
And
right.
you won't know that anyway.
Yeah, no, you won't
That's
know
right.
that, but I mean, thank you.
That's
for
right. Good
3
point.
times, thank you.
And although we are not asking you to bring up these topics, we do have a resource, two-sided resource page for some potential questions you may be asked and potential ways of answering them for you. Feel free to use your own thank you cards. I recommend that overall. It's just because it's pretty sweet to have a genuine handwritten thank you card. I recommend that the thank you card that you write that perhaps the same day. I chose to write them in the car right after my visit. I had them in the vehicle with me, in my Canvas folder, in my stewardship folder. After I conduct the visit, I would go out to the car. I would maybe drive around the block. And then I would finish my notes. Any notes that I felt that I may have taken some during the meeting as well. I'd ask for permission during the visit to take notes, especially if they bring something up that I'd like, that they would like some feedback on or follow up. Then I say, do you mind if I take a note? Do you mind if I have somebody from membership call you on that, or the caring committee call you on that? It sounds like you could use a call from the Reverend. Would you mind if I have the Reverend contact you? So, anything like that, feel free to take notes. Or if you'd like that comment, I'd be happy to submit that comment on your behalf. either anonymously or with your name attached. That's up to you. Sometimes it may be a tougher concept. Feel free to jot those down. You're acting as a courier as well. So when you submit those notes, we'll slice them, meaning if each note seems separate, like if you had something that was related to membership, something that's related to the stewardship campaign itself, once you turn in your notes, we can cut those up and hand them off to the committee to whom it's destined, if that makes sense. So in your car, finish up any notes, clarify to whom any of the notes might go to. If you're not sure, then just turn it in as is, and we'll try to discern it with you or for you. And then feel free to write your thank you card on the spot if you wish, or when you get home. It's just another way of getting it done and following through. In previous years, the same thing has occurred in which when a face-to-face connect is made, a house call is made, the financial commitment form is filled out, and you act as a courier, bringing that back to the stewardship team, back to the treasury. So in the letters that are going out, and in our hands brochure, that has been made clear. Also, when you place your phone call, you're welcome to phrase in your own terms that idea of, I'm looking forward to our visit, especially I'm looking forward to sharing with you about my passions of the church, and act as a courier to bring your financial commitment form back. So it is a twofold visit. That's why your notes also are really important with what you might discover about the person, and also encouraging them to get involved in the church. If it seems that the person may have a desire to get involved with the church, you will equally be acting as that important role and helping them discover their calling in another ministry, really, as you were saying, the potential of another ministry. Yes, they should know whether they should realize that the expectations they would fill it out. There is a what if the person I'm visiting, for whatever reason, is not prepared to do so. Some of the language that are contained in that what if, or some reluctance issues, if after you've tried a couple of ways of hoping that they would, if they need some extra time, or may I come back and revisit you, or maybe you can hand it off to me in church on Sunday.
I can meet you in church and
I can meet
Sunday
you.
with it.
Yes, that's true, yes.
Yeah.
So it would be great if you can conclude that portion of it, but essentially there is a what if in which if they insist that they keep it, then obviously you want to respect their wishes in the end. They may, on the phone, the other what if, of course, is what if they say, just mail it to me, it's fine, just mail it to me. And that is when you say, well, I'm not really allowed to do that, I can't mail anything out, but would you just even meet with me for a few minutes? I'll just come knock on your door, I will have a pen ready, I will make this as easy for you as possible. Even if it's 20 minutes over a cup of tea, that'd be great.
And a great line came up a week
Yes.
ago. Do you
What was
remember?
that?
Well, it was, somebody says, well, why don't I'll just fill it out and you pick it up. And you say, when I volunteered to do this, I was promised I would get to meet some new people. And I really was looking forward to meeting with you, however briefly. So it's like, one of the goodies, the perks, was to get to meet you or to see you again.
Yeah.
And not to be heavy with that, but I thought that was a brilliant. Somebody thought,
It
I've been
is.
cheated. I was promised I'd get to have a little face-to-face or a cup of coffee or something.
Yeah. You are the miracle that is about to show up on their doorstep, whether they realize it or not.
Yeah.
It's true, really. You're all little angels, and you're going to receive a gift too from that connection. Yeah, from that connection. Yeah, that's a great line about. That's what you're promised, And of course, many folks will covenant in church anyway. So, if that happens, if for any reason the person is insistent upon mailing it, you can say, well, after you've said to me, I meet you halfway, or we both really love this church, and you could say, well, I'm going to hand it off to the wrap-up folks, because they'll be doing follow-up with folks that were too busy to meet or weren't able, whatever, however you want to phrase it, okay? But so you could place their name on the top of the financial commitment form, and that gets turned in as is. with your folder, but as soon as possible so that we'll start that count as well.
And we have to
So it doesn't get sealed in an envelope.
conclude the whole process in time to make up the budget for the annual meeting. That's the time frame we have to work with.
The phone call will be to whoever answers. If you clearly are calling a group, a couple,
Pledging unit.
feel free to say, oh, hi Becky, is Ed there also? If you'd like to put Ed on the phone too, that's great. But I wouldn't do that until you really, I actually on the phone call, excuse me, what I would say is, once you go to make the date, I would say, do you need to check with Ed on the date? Is he there to check on the date, or you feel certain that that's good for both of you? Because I'd like you both present. Anyone involved in the decision making.
Yeah.
I'd like to, excuse me.
Exactly.
Excuse me.
Don't
The
deprive
wording was,
me.
I would like to meet you both. That's right. That was the key. I'd like to meet you both. In fact, in the phone script, there's a little line in parentheses in the phone script that will say something like, anyone involved in the decision making around that, and anyone else who's celebrating the life of First Parish, I'd love to meet you both. I'd love to meet all of you for that purpose.
There was one thing that came up too a week ago, which was, and I think it was like maybe people could think ahead of time of how much they want to pledge. And I would discourage them from coming up with a number until after you've met with them. And I talk from my own experience of the first time I was ever canvassed as an adult in Rochester, New York. And I'd already decided, like I'd give $25, that was it. And by the time the canvasser left the house, I had pledged $150. And I had a very limited income. But that was a quantum leap. I mean, didn't make or break the budget of the church. But I was so armed to just stay with my 25. And this person just got me going and realizing how much this church meant to me. And by God, I thought, come on kids, you can do better than that. So see if you can allow that interchange to happen, because I think that can influence the amount of the pledge where it's possible. Some people obviously don't have that flex amount there. But
Lori?
Is it important to meet both parties in a pledging unit, or?
It's preferable that you meet both partners, spouses that are in the pledge unit when possible.
But if not,
Oh,
is it one is better than none?
one is better than none. That's right. Yes. In other words, in the phone call, it would be great if we could select a time that would be where you both would be available, and then that's their call. However they respond to that. Oh well. But it worked. Personal phone call, personal invitation, meet you at church that Sunday. All those things, they really, really worked. And I have been lobbying First Parish and had my hands in all sorts of areas of First Parish life, and been part of many of your lives that I see on the audience tonight, thanks to personal contact. And church doesn't have to just be a Sunday morning thing. It may be for some people, and there's nothing wrong with that as well, something for everybody, but we, as a faith in action church and a social justice church, is pretty extraordinary, these relationships. So in every member canvas, doesn't happen every year at First Parish, but in some churches it does. Some churches are absolutely 100% on board where they believe in an every member canvas, face-to-face, one visiting steward to one pledge unit, every single year. We don't happen to do that currently, but there's some merit to those churches that choose that model. So,
Well, one of the reasons we don't do it, of course, is because it is so labor intensive, because we ask you to go out and make this investment, and all the rest of the committee have had to do their own part in it. So the real reason that we're doing it this year is that it's clear enough that we need to make a jump in the levels that we're giving at. I mean, we've been giving at 170,000. We need to work up to 200,000. We may not make it all this year, but we have to make the best try we can at it. And this way of doing it is what Wayne Clark, the UUA consultant, says is the most effective way to meet people. Yes, Jim. Yeah, there are a couple of little things in the video that are different this year. There was a thing in there about a sheet that told you the different things that you ought to do. We eliminated that. There's a checklist that summarizes them, but yeah, that's slightly different.
Yeah.
I have a couple of observations and/or questions, one of which is that if a person, when you call them, says, I'm sorry, but I absolutely cannot pledge this year, I assume that what we want to say is, that's fine, but I'd really like to meet with you anyway. I'm looking forward to meeting you. We're not going to say, and then when you get there, you're not going to be trying to persuade the person that they really can give $20. I mean, I've been in this situation where I cannot give a dime to a cause that I believe in, and it's incredibly irritating to be badgered for just $25, you know, and I assume we're not doing that. And another thing is,
But I think it's good to have them sign the card and
Right.
say on it
Right.
whatever they want to say,
right,
but to be on record.
right, because they want to maintain their membership, and basically by doing that, they're doing the thing where you ask for a, whatever it is, right? Another, oh God, what is the other
It's so
thing?
important because there are other aspects that
Right.
might occur during the visit that I touch based on the
Right.
video
Right.
that you still get to capture and deliver back.
Another thing is confidentiality. I'm assuming that when people fill out the pledge card that we say, and you could just put it in the envelope and seal it yourself.
Yep.
Yeah,
That is the
because-
preferred procedure.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we should make that very clear. That we're
Right.
going to give them an envelope and a pledge card, and they sign it, put it in the envelope, seal it, give it back to you.
It's better not to know. I worked for the Census Bureau for a number of years doing surveys, and a lot of this stuff came up. And another thing is the idea of, if they say to you, well, how about X amount? Because that's what I did. That's what we did in our first campus call at our first church. We said, well, we were thinking of giving X amount. How's that?
Well,
What do you say?
I think an answer that I would give would be, if it's the right number for you.
Uh-huh.
If you feel fully invested in the First Parish at that level, then that's the right number
Uh-huh.
for you.
Right.
They will have already received the UUA giving guidelines that suggested based on percentages of income. So if they were persistent, that's the only thing you could turn to, say, oh, I don't, I have this. Everything was different.
Yeah,
but
I want to talk a little bit about that guideline.
Yeah.
this is
It's
not perfect.
very, how shall we say, aggressive.
Yeah, it says
Yeah,
that, like, if
what
your
is
income is
asking
$10,000
for?
a year, you should be giving 500. You've got to be kidding me.
That's why
We should be giving them 500.
But the thing about it is that there are people who give at the level in there. I mean, I personally am one, and it's possible to do, but it depends on your circumstances. And they've tried to take account of that, but they don't take account of, do you have a student in college? Do you have a parent in a nursing home? Do you know, all of the things that affect individual lives can't be in there.
I
Which is-
think another important piece is some people will ask, well, what do people give at First Parish? And we know the number that is the mean. the
Well, we
average
know
gift.
that, yes, we know the average, and that's $11.50.
one of the aspects that when I was highlighting about the note-taking you do, just be sure that whatever you promise, I mean, if you said you're going to get that message to membership committee, you're going to get this message to treasury, etc., that that your notes are clear for us, because that's the only that would be an embarrassment, that if we gave the impression that we were going to provide feedback, or someone was going to be calling them or contacting them. And so it's tied to the comment about stock. If somebody makes mention of stock, we definitely want to make sure that that's not lost.
But
Okay, yeah, all I know is that our Canvas Sunday, in which the Canvas sermon will be delivered, is March 15th. After that, until the end of March, is your 2 weeks to make the calls, get the materials back to us.
And then on the 15th, that will be my stewardship sermon, and the name of that sermon is Heart to Heart. And I took Bill's little article that he wrote in Stone Soup last month about hugging, and I'm going to be using that as like my stewardship sermon. So does that mean that everyone here shouldn't make calls until after that Sunday?
That's correct.
Okay. So hopefully it will be, Marge, to your question or request, hopefully I will inspire people to pledge somehow in that sermon.
Or increase.
Give more hugs, yes. About this. If you do find, there's a lot of questions, like keep saying all the people that they're calling are like totally up for the pledging and they're on the list. I mean, there may be an occasional person that is on the list that may not be coming here anymore. They may be angry at us or me. So if you encounter that, I would say to them, would you like to talk to, Reverend Christina? And if they say no, then you can let it go. And then the next question you would ask them, do you still want to be a member of First Parish? Because it would be good for us to know if they don't. Because if they're pulling away from all of it, I mean, there's a difference between them saying, I can't pledge right now, like, Jenna was bringing up, versus like, I don't want to be part of your community because I moved or I'm angry, or then the next question becomes, do you want to still be a member of our community? So it's good for us to know that.
Yeah, it seems to me it would be good to put some preface to that, like saying, well, it's useful for us to know who our active members are,
Right.
who still wants to be involved.
Right.
Because just saying, do you still want to be a member sounds a little
Yes, harsh.
threatening and
Right.
like
Yes.
to get in. Yeah.
You could, if it seems that they are pulled away, you also can ask the question, what would you consider your membership currently to be? Because there is inactive status too. You can do an inactive status, which is being away for some period of time.
That's a great one.
Yeah.
How would you
Do you
describe
think we should still offer to talk with them?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Always
definitely.
talk, I would think.
Yeah.
But you can always ask if they want to talk to the president or me, if you feel like there's a need there. And that would, you'd have to feel that out.
Or caring committee, if the reason why they backed off is they have something going on in their
Right, and if
their
you
family
find
unit.
any pastoral issues in your calls, please let me know. If somebody says, oh, I'm sick, I'm really sick, or I just had a diagnosis, or my mother died, or please just let me know that. And you could say, is it okay if I let Reverend Christina know, and then please let me know.
My
People
question
are
is,
free to use.
It might be a good.
actually, the question I was sitting here with relates to that. If somebody says, I'd like to increase my pledge because I'm really real happy with the way things are, and I don't remember what my pledge was. Who should I, seriously,
That happens, yeah.
who should I tell them to call? Because I know I'm not going to know, so I can't tell them.
Okay, I can field that call, or Steve Collins can field the call. So
Steve is the treasurer?
Steve is the income treasurer,
Okay.
right? But
This in front of me, which you all have a copy of. You have a copy of your checklist as a visiting steward. And on it reminds you to have your calendar. You definitely want your calendar out. You might want to have identified a few windows as suggestions ahead of time as well. Look at your calendar, find out which nights or weekends or before church, after church, which areas work for you, and obviously which ones don't. Because depending on who you call, they may ask you for a suggestion. Do you have a suggestion, or when are you free? So you want some of those 2 or 3 time frames kind of available. You want your calendar out, obviously, in case they come up with the perfect suggestion of when to meet and to determine whether you're free or not. So that's really important, that you're ready before you dial the number, that you have all of your things out. Have the Capture the Spirit brochure out. Ask them if they received the mailing, right? Did you get, because the mailing and the letter asked them if they had a chance to read through. The second one, did you have a chance to read through the mailing? Because the letter is really descriptive. It talks about the increase that's needed and answers a lot of those questions in advance, that you don't have to be the expert, so to speak. So hopefully you've read through all of your mailing as well, and your pieces before you've made the call, so you're aware of what those congregants have in their hands. Agreed? Okay, so, all right, so you make your call. Hello, this is Bruce Carver calling from First Parish Church. Is this a good time to speak?
Yeah, this is pretty good. I can talk now.
Did I reach Alan?
Yes.
Oh, good.
It's me.
I thought I recognized your voice. Well, it is Capture the Spirit Stewardship season, and guess what?
Oh, no, not again.
Yes.
We had one of these last year, Bruce.
Yeah, that's
You're aware of that, right?
what makes it